And here we go. Welcome, Matthew McConaughey, to the Commune podcast. Matthew, thanks for being here.
Good to be communing with you, sir.
That's right. Well, it's a thrill and honor to have you on the show, but I did have to forsake my hefty Oil of Mink sponsorship. Apparently, they heard you're going to be on. They pulled their $10. So
I bet they did. They know I'm still looking for them.
Yeah, I've never given much credence to the ad-supported media model, anyways. But since story takes such primacy in your book and in your life, and broadly, I would categorize stories as the vessels for values, which is a topic I'd love to excavate with you.
Yeah.
But to kick off the game, I wonder if you could recount the Oil of Mink story, since it's both so hilarious and it gives us a little bit of a window into your family life growing up.
Sure. So the year's like 1985. 14, 15, going through adolescence. As one does, you get oily skin, you get a few pimples. Okay, no problem. Well, I get a few pimples and it seems to be normal. But at the same time, my mother is peddling door to door this product called Oil of Mink, and she's taking it herself. And the whole byline with this Oil of Mink product is you put it on your face, it will pull out all the impurities that you will ever have now and in the future, and you will end up with wonderful glowing skin and not another pimple in your life, not another blemish, nothing. Well, Mom's doing this and selling it door to door, and I'm starting to notice I got a few extra pimples in my face, and having nothing to do with the Oil of Mink, I bring it up to her. Mom, what are these pimples in my face? She goes like, oh yeah, that's normal. And then a light goes off in her head. But why don't you try this Oil of Mink? Put it on your face. It'll pull out of all the impurities and your skin will be beautiful forever. I'm like, I'd love to. I start putting this Oil of Mink on every night, slathering it on my face. I wake up the next few days, more pimples. A week later, a lot more pimples. 2 weeks later, a whole lot more pimples. I go to my mom. I said, Mom, it seems to be working in reverse order. I got all these even 5 times more pimples than I had before. She's like, looks at me. She goes, no, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to pull out all the impurities. I do it another week. I come back. Now I'm getting full-blown acne, like lumps on my face. When I wash my face with a washcloth, it's gross. Things bleed, etc. I go to my mom. She goes, well, let me call my boss, this lady, Elaine, who worked with my father. She comes over, the lady who got her on to selling the Oil of Mink door to door. She comes over, and this Elaine looks at my face. She goes, wow, you sure do have a lot of impurities, young Matthew. And I'm like, okay. She goes, keep doing it. I keep doing it. A month goes by. Now it's too much. I look like a different person. I go to the dermatologist without telling my mom, because Mom didn't think I needed to go to the dermatologist. She just thought I needed to keep using Oil of Mink. And the dermatologist looks at my skin. He goes, what are you putting on that? And I brought the bottle of Oil of Mink. He looks at it and he goes, no. This is for someone who's like 40 years and older. You're going through adolescence. Your pores are all open. This is clogging your pores. He says, if we don't get you on Accutane right now, if you go another 2 weeks on this product, you're going to have those ice pick holes, whatever they're called, in your cheeks for the rest of your life. We got it. I'm glad you came in. Let's get you on it. Well, we get on the Accutane. That takes a year, et cetera, to do. It all worked. In the meantime, though, right before the Accutane worked, my dad, who was always an opportunist, is like, damn, son, that thing made you look at you. You look like a different kid. Your face is all pocked up. We're going to sue this company. So, yeah, we're going to sue him. As him and his lawyer decide $35,000 we can get from that company for all this problem with my face, but mainly, as the lawyer says, because of my emotional distress that I must have gone through, right? And that lawyer sits me down while I've got all these pimples. He's like, is your confidence low? Or I'm like, well, yes, sir. He's like, He goes, how's it going with the girls? I go, not as well. He goes, And all of a sudden he looks at my dad. He goes, $35,000. We can get him for $35,000. This is emotional distress. Well, that's when I had the pimples. Now, I use Accutane for a year. It clears it all up. As you know, lawsuits go, they take a while. This year has passed. I'm all cleared up. I'm now a senior. 2 years have passed. I'm now a senior in high school. Pimples are gone. Things are going great. Things with the girls are going great. I'm confidence is high, et cetera, et cetera. I now get called in for the deposition with the defending attorney, the attorney defending Oil of Mink. And he sits down with me and he pulls out these pictures of me where I was just all, lump faced with the pimples. He's like, oh my gosh, you poor young man. The emotional distress must have been so high. And I'm over here at 18 years old thinking, he's throwing me a softball. I'm like, oh, I was so emotionally distressed. And I'm thinking, here we go, 35 grand. And just as I'm getting confident that we've got this case, this prosecuting lawyer reaches under the table, pulls out this green, what looked to be a yearbook. Now, it was a Longview logo. Our yearbook was green. He opens it up to a marked page, looks at the picture, turns the thing around and slides it over in front of me and points to a picture and goes, who's that? And I look down, and there I am standing next to Camisa Springs, that senior year of high school, with a sash over my chest that says most handsome. And as I looked at that, I looked up at him, and he just leaned and he goes, so emotionally distressful, huh? And I knew we'd lost the case. It was all, we lost it. It was thrown out. But that's my oil of mink story. And pull out all the impurities. Yeah.
Well, I can see why you were inspired to become a barrister in your early life.
Yeah.
Well, I got a much needed ab workout reading that story in your book just from the laughter.
Good.
And I will say it's been a really enjoyable experience because I've read it, but I also listened to it on Audible, and you do the reading in your inimitable drawl and character, and we've been listening to it, my wife and I, as we go to bed. That's about as romantic as it gets in our household of 3 girls now. So, but it's been...
yeah, I hear you. I know how that goes.
That's right. I know you do. So there's a lot of terrain I'd love to cover. But let's start with Greenlights, because that's, I think, the primary premise here of our conversation. So this book was published, I think, last October.
October 20th.
And it quickly... Yeah, and this was your first book, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And you got off on a good start because it became an instant New York Times bestseller. And I have it here for those watching the video, this gorgeous piece of literature. And I'd categorize it as compendium in some ways of really insightful and enjoyable stories and prescriptions and what you call bumper stickers, one word, that provide a chronological window into the journey of chasing your best self. You know, all the green, yellow, and red lights that you hit along that voyage, and everybody hits them. So I just wonder, for a general context for those who haven't read the book, what does a green light signify to you?
Green lights mean go. Yes. More, please. Amen. Attaboy, attagirl. Affirm your way. Proceed. We love them because they do that. They're easy. They affirm our way. Yellow lights, which is really kind of, I think, where the art of living in a lot of ways is, because it's the place where we have a choice. Do we slow down and make that yellow light red and take some real inventory in our life, maybe turn that pause and give crisis credit, turn it into a red light, whether that be a hardship, crisis, disease, death, something like that. Or a yellow light sometimes is where you look at, no, I'm not going to give that crisis credit. You put the pedal to the metal and you blow that damn thing. And you say, I'm not going to slow down for that because it's not a crisis I'm going to give credit. Red lights are when we're full stop. These are, full-on jackknives in our life that just stop us in our tracks. Things did not go as we planned. Actually, they may have gone the opposite as we planned. They can be unexpected hardships, crisis, death, disease, problems with health, etc. What I noticed in writing my book was I've engineered green lights for myself. I've taken responsibilities for things that paid me off in my future, and I called my shot, and I made it. I also noticed that sometimes green lights fell in my damn lap. Where the heck did that come from? I got no idea, but heck, I'm going to try and take advantage of it. I've noticed that yellow lights in my life, where yellow lights, if it's all green lights, if it's all just the green light, well, then what are we doing? We're running in circles and we're not really evolving. We're going to get dizzy. We're repeat offenders of the same bad habits because we're just pedal to the metal until we run out of gas. Yellow light, which I was saying earlier, is the art of, do you slow down and make it a red and give it real credence, or do you blow through it? Those are really interesting because, we go through life, we have habits, and we step in our potholes of life. And we look back, and sometimes we go, why do I keep stepping in that same pothole or that same pile of shit? I keep doing that, or banging my head against the wall of trying to solve the same problem the same damn way I've been trying to do it all my life. I got to back up a minute. I got to take a pause. I got to look at that pothole and go, oh, I see why I keep stepping in that. Or maybe I got to back off of where I'm banging my head and say, oh, don't try and go through it. Why not dance around it? And that can give us openings to new green lights. We don't like yellow lights. We don't like red lights. But what I've noticed, even with red lights where I have the death of my father, a real red light, it had a green light lesson for me. It helped me kickstart being the man I was trying to become, because all I was doing while he was alive was trying to act like the man he wanted me to become, because I knew I had him as a crutch behind me. I knew that he had my back if the SHIT really hit the fan, but now he's physically gone. And I'm like, whoa, that safety net's not there anymore, Matthew. So it sped me up and initiated me and incentivized me to go, you better start being the man you're trying to be instead of acting like it. So in that respect, there's the analogy, the metaphor, whatever it's called, that in the rear view mirror of life, I do believe that every yellow and red will turn green. Now, when does it turn green? Ha 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 ha. One value of creating more green lights in our life is to trust that our hardships, our yellow and red lights, do have a green light asset in them. Just believe that they're going to turn green can help us through some hard times. But then when do we realize it? When do we realize the lesson learned? Well, sometimes we realize it when we're in the problem. Sometimes we realize it the next day, next week, next month, next year. Sometimes I think we're going to realize it on our deathbed. And I also agree that sometimes we're not going to realize how some of the red and yellow lights of our life turn green in this life. I think maybe our great grandkids may reap the benefit of our red and yellow lights in our life and learn a lesson 2-3 generations from now, that they'll go, oh, that's what that was for. So the final summation, though, is that I do believe in the rear view mirror of life, all the reds and yellows do eventually turn green.
Yeah, and it seems like you've also refined your ability over time to engineer that process.
Yes.
And we can, jump into the reconnaissance, as you surreptitiously dubbed it, later in the conversation. But knowing when to pull back is a skill. But as you say, you can engineer your own green lights, but but sometimes people can give you green lights.
Yep.
And there was a bit in the book that really struck an emotional chord with me. I grew up with my brother, with my dad through our adolescence, which is pretty rare, And so I had a particularly close relationship with my father, who facilitated, I would say, a lot of green lights for me. But as we kind of alluded to briefly before, you grew up in a relatively hard scrabble, blue collar family, and you were being groomed to be the family lawyer, and you had, at least in the early parts of your life, really just embraced and stepped into that role, oil of mink notwithstanding.
Right.
And you had, I guess I would call it an epiphany or an inflection point that that's not what you wanted to do anymore. That's not what you wanted to devote your life to. And maybe you could just unpack that for a moment.
Yeah.
That epiphany, and then what that meant in terms of the relationship, particularly with your dad.
Sure. So that's what I was expected to do, and I was honored to think that that's what I was going to do, and I thought I could be a damn good lawyer since I was 12. I was the debater in the household. I was the one that could actually make my mom and dad go, gosh, damn it, why do we listen to you? You got us thinking now. I mean, I was the only one of the three brothers that could get them to think about something a different way, or make a point where they would consider it after, instead of just saying, because we told you so. Now, I get off to college. I'm at University of Texas. It's at the end of my sophomore year. And as we all know, sometimes we don't really wake up to what it is we want to do until we're about to have to make a decision. Well, the end of my sophomore year is that time where the credits from now on in my school, junior, senior, need to go directly towards law school. If I change my major, then I'm going to waste credit. So I'm at a time in my life where I was not sleeping well with the idea of becoming a lawyer. I'm like, man, I've been writing short stories. I've been doing a lot of creative writing. I'm thinking I'm going to get out of here. I got to go to law school, and then I'm going to get out and try to get a job. I mean, I'm going to be in my young 30s before I'm actually making a mark, executing some vocation. And I go, I don't want to spend my decade of my 20s just learning. What do I want to do? So I want to get the storytelling business. But oh my gosh, that sounds so much like a Saturday. That sounds so avant-garde. That sounds so European. I mean, the way I grew up, that's like, you want to what? No, that's a hobby that we do well, but you don't go make a living doing that. Well, I had a friend, Rob Bindler, who gave me the confidence to say, I think you should. He actually thought I should get in front of the camera. I didn't have the courage to say yes to that yet, but I did say, hey, I want to get behind the camera, maybe, and help tell stories. Now, I got to call mom and dad specifically, to convince them this is what I want to do. I'm very anxious about this call. I actually remember setting it out. I made the decision on that Saturday. And planned the Tuesday following. And my ideas were like, Monday's not great because it's the first day back at work. Tuesday, dad's back into work. He's got a few sales going. I'll call about 7:30. He gets home from work at 6. He'll have just finishing dinner, having his first beer with mom on the couch. Yeah, perfect time. I call him 7:36 p.m. Hey, Pop, what's up, monkey man? Listen, can I talk to you about something? Sure, bud, what's up? Pop, I don't want to go to law school anymore. I want to go to film school. Pause. And I'm going, oh, here we go. He's about to go. I'm about to go, you want to do what, boy? I don't hear that. There's a 5-second pause. Next thing I hear is, well, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, yes, sir. And I said, yes, sir, clearly, and back to him right off the end of his sentence. Another 5-second pause. And then he gave me the 3 best words he's given me. He goes, well, don't half-ass it. And through the phone, I felt that his right molars meet, which kind of gave me a little, a little kick in the ass. I got his approval. I got the privilege. I got the responsibility. I got the freedom. I got the accountability. All of it in just the way he said those 3 words. And something I've noticed since, Jeff, that I think is interesting is, as I've unpacked that story, I realized what it was, I think, that went through my dad's mind by hearing his youngest son, say, I want to go my own way, a way that we've never spoken about before, which I think, in a way, now as becoming a parent, is an example of what we want to hear one day from all of our kids. We raise our kids in a structured way. You're going to be this. If you follow these rules, you work your way up a ladder, you'll check off boxes along the way, and you'll make your way up the stairwell. But what do we really want to hear? That day when our kids go, I'm not going that way. I'm going my own. Now, he heard in my voice by how quickly he goes, you sure that's what you want to do? Yes, sir. The non-pause, the fact that when I asked him, I wasn't really asking permission. I wasn't really asking him a question. He could hear that. And the fact that I said, yes, sir, right away meant that to his ears, he was like, oh, my son's not bluffing. Oh, he's walked his own plank. Yeah, that's what I want. And then he said, don't have to. It all happened in 25 seconds. But if I would have gone, is that you sure that's what you want to do? If I'd have gone, I mean, Pop, I think he'd have gone, boy, what the hell are you talking? He'd have jumped in because he'd have made me, you better be convicted. But I didn't. And I think that's in that moment, he was proud that he was like, I raised my son all right, that he came back to me and said, I'm going my own way, Pop. And I'm asking you, but I'm not really asking you.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think of it that way when I read it, but you're absolutely right. And I'm making that connection when I asked my wife to be grandfather for permission. And I wasn't really asking for permission. I was saying, I'm marrying your granddaughter.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can really do about it.
And that's when he was like, you're the one.
You're the one. Exactly.
Oh, don't come a bluffing. Don't come a bluffing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that has become this notion of not half-assing it is certainly a leitmotif of your life. and I would call it a core value, or it seems like it. And I want to talk a little bit about values for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I think one thing that's interesting when you write a book, it feels like a finite piece of work. It feels codified, but the second you publish it, it becomes a million books or however
Right.
many you sold,
Right.
probably more than that, because everyone who reads it brings their own direct experience and knowledge to it, And like, for example, I know The Greatest Salesman in the World, that was a book that had a great influence on you. It's about you. It's about the reader. It's not
Right.
really
Right.
about the author.
Right.
And I think that the infectious element of story and storytelling is that everyone sees some of their own in someone else's, So, and this is really what makes self-expression like so unifying and expansive. And in reading your book, I found something in your story that was very convergent with my own. And I know you prodded this, towards the end of the book. But in some ways, I suppose you could see the first chapter of your life about values, about establishing the traits that define what it is to be you.
Yep.
And then, and this is me just interpreting, but the second chapter is more about living. In your case, a lot of madcap adventures on motorcycles and trips down the Amazon and Chateau Marmont, which is just around the corner for me, and
Yep.
its associated debauchery and all that stuff. And then the third chapter I'd call, at least looking at myself, living values or
Right.
living values, which is making the choices in your life that align your actions with your highest self.
Amen.
So perhaps we just start with that first chapter and values, and maybe you could just kind of poke at that a little bit of like, what are your defining values, and where did they come from, and where do you think values come from in general?
Oh, yeah, boy, great question. I'd love to talk for days about this.
Yeah, me too. This is really what I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, mine early on were hard work. I learned resilience over time. Gratitude was a biggie, you know, to be appreciative of what you got. How many times my mom would sit there and say, if we were grumpy in the morning, and I mean, come at us going, who the hell do you think guaranteed that sun was going to rise again this morning? Did you just take that for granted? You took that as a guarantee? Who do you think you are? I mean, you were, bam, humbled to go, oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Which made the burnt toast taste a little better. Even if you didn't want it burnt, you're like, okay, at least I got toast. Yes, thank you. Then dad was, I remember very clearly the times where my parents performed corporal punishment on me, which gave me pain, short-term pain, but it was for the first time for not answering to my name, the second time for saying I hate you to my brother, the third for saying I can't, C-A-N-T, and the fourth for lying. So on a very, just mammalian, Pavlovian level, you could say, oh, I related pain with those, so what's the antonym? Oh, okay. Know your name, answer to your name, tell the truth, love, don't hate, believe you're having trouble, but never believe you can't. So the antonym was the values. And that's what my mom and dad were trying to instill in me is, look, if you go through the world not being able to stand up and tell the truth, whatever, take the consequences of it, and you lie about it, you're going to have a hard time negotiating out there. If you go through the world thinking you can hate and hating things instead of loving things, you're going to have an happy travel, buddy. If you go through the world believing you can't do things and believing that word can't instead of, hey, we all have trouble. I remember my dad many times, hey, you're having trouble. I remember the time I told him I can't get the lawnmower started. And he came out and he started it for me after fixing a couple of things and got down on two knees, put his hands on my shoulders. He goes, you see, buddy, you were just having trouble. And I remember like, oh yeah. If you say I'm having trouble, you don't believe you can't, even if you're unable to do it yourself, you can ask for help.
Yeah.
That is a form of, I'm just having trouble. It didn't mean I couldn't.
Yeah, and that's humility, right? in there.
Yeah.
It's like I can't
Yeah.
do it myself, so
No,
I'm
I'm
gonna,
unable to
yeah.
do it myself. I'm seeking some help. Can I get some, please? That still means you were only having trouble. So the antonyms of those were the offense of the values that stuck in me that I've tried to work on and cultivate and evolve through my life. You know, where do values come from? I saw the examples of those from my family. My family and mom and dad were very clear about what they stood for, what they didn't stand for, what they liked, disliked. But I don't. I've never. I can to never heard my mom say hate or my dad say the word hate, or I've never known anything that they did hate. They never showed me something they hated. They had showed me great dislike for things and opposition. Never hated it. You know, what else? Can't. No, never. The word can't. I just don't hear that. I don't remember the last time I heard that word. Trying to instill that in my
Mhm.
kids too. Um, and then the lying thing. I mean, as you read the book, I'm gonna come from a family of great bullshitters. But the difference is the bullshitter in the middle of the story can slide you the wink, which is like, just go with it. And you're like, okay, I get it. And that's okay because we can acknowledge that. Come on, we're dramatizing the story and it's a better story for it. Yeah, I'll even chime in as well. But the straight lie, which some people do, and hell, I've done it before too. It just doesn't have all those things. Just don't, in my life, I said, oh, they don't have residuals for me. They don't have residuals for us as individuals. And they're not near as fun to live to live without those values or to live by. If you hate, lie, cheat, steal, answer to any name, and believe you can't do stuff, it's just not going to be as fun of a life either. Yeah, it's a good question. Let's unpack where values come from.
Yeah, because I look at, obviously, a lot of people derive their values from religion, for example.
Yeah,
So what I like to look at is the consilience that seems to exist between all these different religions, which to me points to the fact that there is some sort of moral intuition that emerges behind them. Like, we
right,
didn't need Moses to hold up a tablet
right,
on a mount that said, "Thou shalt not kill,"
right,
to know that murder was wrong, right?
right,
And
right.
so this is, one of the things I'm really trying to get at is that, where does that moral intuition come from, and can it be universal
Yeah,
and shared?
yep,
Because and we'll get into this, because as we look around at, like, the political invective or all the things that separate us, if we can hone in on what defines our common humanity.
right.
And I think that you're onto something here, that it might just be in values. I'll read you something that you
Yeah,
wrote, okay?
yep,
Travel and, hold on one second. It says, travel and humanity have been my greatest educators. They have helped me understand the common denominator of mankind, values. Engage with yourself, then engage with the world. Values travel.
yep.
So, I wonder, isn't I know you feel there's so much potency in values,
Yeah.
and let's let's bounce this a little bit.
Yeah, let's do. I mean, let me start. This came to me the other day because I do believe that's the honey hole that we kind of go, oh, okay, we have a similar value. I'm not into this idea that, hey, we're all the same. No, 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 no. I think we're all very different, and we're born with different innate abilities. We have different looks, colors, tastes, et cetera, et cetera. But the values are that common denominator that we can go, okay, I have a social expectation from you because I believe you value that. We have opposition of opinion on healthcare, but we both want our mom and dad to be as healthy as possible. Okay, we agree on that, right? Okay. So I was thinking about this the other day of how values are really what, speaking in political terms, because things get politicized so much, what values are what really can break down the walls, because each camp, the right and the left, are claiming to have license to certain values, to have
That's
trademarks on
right.
certain values. The left, let's go through. The left believes they have a trademark on intellectualism. The left believes they have a trademark on rehabilitation. The left believes they have a trademark on science. The left believes they have a trademark on, I don't know, but that would go with rehab. What else? That's a few. So the right believes they have, if you're going to say the opposite of intellectual, I don't know. The right believes they have a trademark on work ethic, self-reliance. The right thinks they have, if the left has rehabilitation, the right believes they have a trademark on consequences. The left believes they have a trademark on science. The right believes they have a trademark on faith. They don't own these things. Those things are not, those aren't contradictions. Not one's a political party. That's not an umbrella big enough to own these things. These are paradoxes. We all got a right to these. It's a human right to each one of these values. It's not a political if or situation. And so in finding that honey hole of what you're talking about, which is that common denominator, which you bring up, my hunch is right now to start with going, well, wait a minute, let's look at who's trying to take ownership of these and say, because I've got them, you don't have them. You can't have them, which is more of the world I think we're living in right now in the opposition, which I write in the book. I don't even believe we have true controversy right now. True controversy at least means I have to give you credit as an opposition. And we don't even give credit to our opposition anymore.
No. Yeah. No, we don't. I heard you. There was a quote I heard you. I think it was on my friend Russell's podcast where you said, "The only thing in the middle right now are yellow lines and dead armadillos."
Yeah. Someone told me that when I said, I'm aggressively centric. And this guy goes, oh, good old boy, smart, funny guy. He goes, hell, centrist. He goes, the only damn thing in the middle of the road, yellow lines and armadillos. And I remember I was right back. I said, hey, buddy, let me tell you, man. The two sides are so far from the yellow lines. The armadillos are running free in the middle of the road because all four of the wheels, all four sets of tires on each side of the aisle right now aren't even touching the pavement. They're way off in the gravel. But it was a funny comeback that he said.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just drop a little intimation into the ether here of I wonder what a values tour would look like, based around story, because I look at okay, we made that delineation between the left and the right. Like, let's take it on a specific issue like immigration, which, to be honest, there's much more convergence there than we think there is if we just watch Fox or MSNBC or whatever.
Right.
But but the right will kind of take this line of the left is anarchy and open borders, and we're not letting in our best people, and they're stealing our work and stealing our jobs, and they're criminals, or what have you. And then the left has taken kind of this effete stance, and they posit, oh, but this is the land of opportunity and the American dream, and unless you were brought here. Unless you're a descendant of a slave or a Native American, you are an immigrant. So I see this invective happen, and there's nothing profitable to that project, on social media or anything.
No.
So, but what if you asked the values-oriented question behind it, which is, it could be a number of different things. But what if you asked, what are the preconditions that would prompt someone to pack up and leave their own country and go to a country that speaks a different language, that doesn't even want them?
Right.
What are those preconditions? Whoa, and that changes the whole tenor of the conversation, because then you get into a values-oriented conversation of well, what's happening in Guatemala or El Salvador? What are those conditions? What responsibility do we have there, or not, or no responsibility?
Yeah.
But it humanizes the whole thing. So
Yep.
These are the conversations I'm thinking that you're already eliciting, but that speak
I'm
right
glad you're
to
hearing a little bit of
values.
listeners, because this is what I'm trying to get all over daily. This is what's on my mind, is how to, I almost say this term, okay, values, it sounds great, I get it, but could you say, how do we commodify values, measure them? Like, what's the measurement? Give me some science, because they feel good, they sound good. Yeah, I got it, I'll do that. But I mean, I want to know, okay, what's my ROI? And maybe even, is there a way to show that values can fill your bank account? That's
That's
another
right.
mountain to climb, but still, what, at least it humanizes in what you're saying. And to go, so first we got to have a conversation where we're coming in, and the Jim statement coming in is, we're not going to condemn, and we're not here to convert.
Mm,
No condemnation, no conversion. All right.
right.
We can agree here. All we're going to do is we're going to walk out of this conversation agreeing on one value, or two values, or however many you get, one at least. And we can shake on that and still go, F you, I disagree, and I don't go to that church, and I ain't voting that way. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. But can we walk away with one
Yeah.
little piece that was a bridge? They go, oh, me too. Oh, you too? Oh, okay, me too. Just one. I believe it'll do something. It has to be more than that. I believe in the end, it needs to be more than that. But how to commodify them, how to make them real and measurable.
Yeah. So I think this is really interesting because, there has been a cleavage over time philosophically between facts and values. That facts has been the providence of science and the scientific method of experimentation and observation, etc., but that science requires a sort of value neutral, non biased approach in order to deliver conclusion. And then you have over here values, which has been, the sandbox of faith. And, it's really spirituality and religion. And, to be honest, I don't think that there needs to be a chasm between facts and values. I think that values can emerge from a more scientific observation, which I think is what you're hinting at, where
Yes.
there are actual indices and metrics that can point to what makes a society thrive, or how do we imbue more well-being in the most possible people, which speaks to your axiom around utilitarianism, right?
Yep.
So, and I think it's possible, and we see some models of it, like in New Zealand, for example, or in Bhutan, most famously. They have a happiness index.
Yep.
But how do we
G&H.
measure things like, B Corp saturation, which
Yep.
I think you talk about some, or poverty rates, literacy, access to health care. Sure, median income, but try to really get to those metrics that then can measure values, and try to get away from the ones that don't, like GDP or the Dow Jones, exchange, because those are empty metrics.
Well, they are, but we're more religious about those metrics than any pursuit of transcendent self or God, if we're believers, or any spirituality. I mean, those are our true Vatican. That's our religion. I mean, we made it to be that. Again, in my love of paradox, I'm trying to say, how can it be both? Because, boy, especially in the West, in a capitalist society, that's more than a large size boulder to push up a hill to try and get us to go, hey, forget your bank account, check in with Amelia, your soul's account. What I'm trying to think, and it leans into these B Corp ideas, is, hey, where do you feel both? Where do you feel both? And you are worth more, and you have more respect from society more if you fill your bank account, but you did it by filling your soul's account. You didn't lie, cheat, steal. You didn't forego your values to succeed. Because right now, we don't care how the hell you got to the top. If you got more zeros behind your dollar sign, you get the head of the table.
Yeah.
It's yours. I don't care who you pillaged and killed along the way and screwed over. I don't care. You got a higher number, head of the table. That value system is out of order. Now, how do we get ourselves? So when you go into values, you bring up morality and you bring up science, as you said, the metrics of values can emerge from science. I'm a believer. All right, I'm a man of faith, and I've had strong times where I'm stronger in my faith and times where I'm weaker in my faith, but still believe. And I've always believed that science is the practical pursuit of God. Not going to ever get there, which is another metaphor for what I believe life is, individually and as states and nations. We're all an aspiration.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the result. We're not going to land and go, ta-da, I made it. America's never going to go, oh, now we finally know what justice is, and now we finally have a clear definition on equality. We're not going to get there. But can the staircase still go up where we just have a small ascension of evolution? Can we do that as individuals? Let me ask you this. I think that everybody is interested, if they hear it in their right way, to believe more in their own capacity to be better, to be more true, to be closer to their better self. But I'm told I'm being arrogant and believing that. I'm told that a lot of people are like, what are you talking about, man? Piss off. I don't give a damn about that.
I mean, I think you nailed it with this notion of aspiration. I mean, who doesn't have aspiration? I mean, in some ways, I mean, the 4th of July is coming up. And I've been thinking about, like, okay, we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? All men are created equal. That is an aspiration, and we're inching our way along down the arc of the moral universe.
Yep.
And sometimes that path is jagged, and sometimes we're taking a step backwards to take 2 steps forward. But who doesn't have their own Declaration of Independence?
Right,
really?
right,
You know,
right,
or
right.
maybe that's what we need to help people with. You know, because what truths are self-evident in you and in you and in me, and then how do we inch down the moral, the arc of the moral universe in our own lives? And I mean, you do this beautiful job of weaving together this kind of idea of e pluribus unum, you know, out of many one. Right. That oftentimes when we actually break it down, that our self-interest and the collective good turn out to be one and the same thing.
Yes, you know? We just got to. It's just very thin veil we have over our eyes, and we seem to be blinded by it. It's like we've drank the Kool-Aid, and I talk about it with politics. I believe in this same way that we're talking about this in conversation to this point. We're all much more centrist than we're led to believe we are.
That's right.
We have the numbers. I think people with a certain common denominator values have the numbers. We're running the ship. Now, there's a couple of militia pirates groups that are coming over on the far right and the far left, and we're being told that they are the absolute boogeyman, and we better be scared. And we're like going, whoa! When the fact is, look around, man, we got them 84% to 16. Let's kick them off the boat. Don't let them board. So I think we're kind of drinking the Kool-Aid. And we're told to by some of these media stations and formats and platforms that tell us and dramatize things. And you're told, and I get it, man. I'll watch the same damn issue and hear Fox say it, and I'm like, damn, they got a good point. I'll watch the same issue on NBC and say, damn, they got a point. They both seem right. I'm like, going, wait a minute. They dramatize, and it's a pep rally. It's not,
Right.
Let me ask you this. I was to try and deconstruct all this. Do you think we need to, before we get aspirational and say, hey, let's get a value epidemic, one we don't want a vaccine for. All right. Do you think before we get into those tools and that aspiration, that we need to say, all right, first off, let's find a way to agree on a fact, something that's actual. Is that a value to agree on a fact? That because we don't do it now.
Yeah, this is, man, this is so central to our ability to have conversation. Because,
Right.
when I was watching the presidential debates last fall, it wasn't really a debate. It was a recitation of two different sets of facts,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
So we're living in this post-truth environment. And, you're absolutely right about the media. The media takes an event, sensationalizes it, editorializes over the top of it, either to the left or to the right, and and then deploys it in a way to maximize and leverage human negativity bias in a way that creates fear and outrage. I mean, everyone's outraged all the
Yeah.
time. They're
All the
in what
time.
I call amygdala hijack.
Yep.
And when you're in your amygdala all the time, you're not going to make rational decisions. You're not going to be able to use your prefrontal cortex to actually, practice discernment and all these kinds of things. So it's really, you're right, the media landscape is so polluted that we need to kind of get behind it and really reestablish common ground. Because, like, nothing ever big and good happened, without social cohesion, right?
Right.
Our big projects have always been predicated on our ability to cooperate flexibly at scale.
Right.
And that doesn't mean I agree with you all the time, but that means we can come together again around big projects. And in the absence of fact, what we've seen is a complete erosion of coherence, of cohesion.
Yep.
So we don't agree on the science around COVID, or that or the reckoning for social justice. You've got half of America that believes that there were rampant riots and looting, and another half that believes that all these protests were absolutely peaceful. There's just no there's no common ground. So I
No.
think we need to completely reassess the media landscape, and then I think, to be honest, individuals like you that have significant reach, need to help people cohere around what is objective truth, and that's
Right.
hard.
It's, I thought, because it's taken certain tragic events to bring people together. We all know that. We all sit here and we intellectualize how we should do this, and then we don't do it until it threatens what's inside our walls. You know what I mean? I thought that, Bin Laden and ISIS was going to really galvanize. First thing since Hitler that we can all agree on. Bad guy, that'll really we'll come together. Didn't really happen. Then I actually thought
for a minute.
it did for a minute, but it was a pep rally, and
That's right.
this, we built another tower there, but we didn't really change, besides becoming more nationalist and protectionist in certain ways, that in certain ways made us, what some would argue, less American. Then you got COVID. I was like, very early on, I was like, I know it's too early to say this, but this may be what gets us all to come together. Now, so far, I've been wrong. And I've tried to wonder why. Oh, it's because it's an invisible enemy, and our reaction is, as Americans, to get on the front line and greet it, which this enemy wants you to do that. That's how it wins. But that hasn't happened in a year and a half. What is it? And again, in the way of, we talked about morality or responsibility or the Moses commandments. Those are the you better if or do not if. That's what a lot of religion does, and that's a lot of it's wonderfully fear-based. And I'm a fan of how I've learned and what fear has kept me from doing things I shouldn't have done in my life. But what if we go the step further, more into a more sort of Eastern philosophy, which is, no, do it by choice, man. It's good for you, which is what you were leaning into when you were talking about this e pluribus. What's good for you can be what's best for the most amount of people. Those are not a contradiction. It's a choice. Do it because the broccoli tastes good and it's good for you. You know what I mean? It's like it's the healthiest meal you can eat and it tastes great. We have to go through a little rehabilitation of our minds and spirits, though, to get to that understanding.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is an interesting pivot here for a moment because you've done your life has been chock full of walkabouts and personal retreats, and I think forays into solitude that have given you some of these insights. And I mean, I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but I'm a follower of Buddhism, and the whole purpose of Buddhism is the realization of the non-self, right? It's nirvana. It's so I I want to just kind of understand a little bit more about your relationship spiritually with solitude. And you wrote something that just resonated with me so much. I have it here. It says, we need to put ourselves in places of decreased sensory input so we can hear the background signals of our psychological processes. As the noise decreases, the signals become clearer. We can hear ourselves again. We can reunite. Time alone simplifies the heart. And man, I mean, as someone who's a regular meditator, I think you cut right to the heart of it, is that these practices are really just processes into understanding the function of our own mind. And this is where the whole world exists, within our own mind. So in some ways, what we need to spark is a spiritual revolution as much as a political one. But one thing that I wanted you to talk about, because I think one of the most striking characteristics about you is, and there are many, is your ability to toggle between extroversion and introversion. In one moment, you're most handsome, lighting up the tavern, holding court on the red carpet or whatever. And the next moment you're off to the Amazon or Mali or the desert. And I wonder how this kind of elixir of solitude and adventure has played a part in the process of identifying who you are, and how might that be helpful for other people. And I'll just tag on one thing, is that the wrestling match with Michelle, oh man, that was the apex for me, man. But anyways, I don't, because for me that brought this notion of solitude and adventure to the summit. But anyways, let me stop there, because there's a lot of threads to pull out.
So, I mean, a couple things. I grew up much more extroverted. I met my friend Rob Bendler, who's the one who gave me the confidence to go to film school. I met him in art class. I was most popular. I was on the football team, the golf team. I was most handsome. But I took art class and met Rob, the 120-pound Jewish kid who was non-athletic but loved movies, and whose dad was an interior decorator, and he read books. I'd never read a book. He and I became friends. So on Friday night, I would take him with me to meet my friends at the dead end with the tailgate down, the kegger, and the music, and dancing and chasing girls. And on Saturday night, we'd go to his house, play ping pong, watch a movie, write scripts, and read philosophy and stuff. And that was our switch off. And my mom called it salt and pepper. And so that was my first dip into introversion. And, I was keeping a diary up to that point, but it was sort of like something I was doing on the side on my own. And then to go spend time with him, I was like, oh, introspection, reading, investigating yourself and doing something other than just going out and engaging all the time is actually, there's great value in that. And I kind of enjoyed it. The conversations were different. So then in life, the introversion and the extroversion. So I would say most of my younger life, I was more extroverted. In going to write the book, I've taken these trips and been introverted and taken my solo trips many times through my life. And I come to love it so much that the hardest part's coming back and engaging and being extroverted again. The extreme example is the writing of the book. The hardest part about that was coming back and engaging with my family, with my friends. I was like, I was having too much of a good time having the Socratic dialogue with myself. I didn't want to talk with anybody else. And I was like, whoa, you better watch this, McConaughey. That's not, you got to get rebalanced here. I've probably toggled between, I have a threshold and a spider sense that has gone off that I've been fortunate enough to listen to a few times in my life that, oh, we're rolling as an extrovert. Oh, we're rolling when we got the mic in our hand. Oh, put me on the stage. Oh, I want to be there. I love it. Right at that time when I'm like, I got this, I have a little spider sense that goes, woo, woo, hey, watch it, watch it. You just feel like you got it. You have it down now. Better get out of town. Like jackknife the situation. like just straight reverb. Do 180 the situation. Go away and go away going like, what am I doing? But then trust that you'll get there and go, you did need to listen to yourself. Oh, you did need to let memory catch up. Now at the same time, I'll now become more so introverted that I have to remind myself, hey, go engage, man. But no, I'm enjoying my own company. What a great thing for a man to be able to do. Oh, great. You can still do that. Get out and engage. Go be about others. Don't be overly so self-involved that you're in any way, and you got to go re-oil those parts of the machine. The extrovert have to come back and I got to re-oil that a little bit. And the introvert, I got to re-oil that a little bit. But I've gone back and forth. And if I get too comfortable with one, that little spider sense tells me, go do the other right now. Don't lose the ability to do that or the capacity to be the extrovert while you're being the introvert or vice versa. So I've toggled between the two. But I will say this, though. The introversion, which is what you led off with, whether it's meditation, time alone, a walkabout, church, whatever it is, that's where you get to know the self. That's who you then get to know that well enough. You know who you're going to be when you're the extrovert. If you're all extrovert and no introvert, you start spinning in circles after a while and people telling you told me the same damn story again. You know what I mean? I'm tired of that story. I'm bored with that story. I'm like, I just tell the same story again to the same people. Maybe I need to go to do some inventory, right? And it goes, back and forth. So I just try to toggle between the two. But I do know that the introversion, how do you do? I've thought of becoming a hermit. I've thought of being a monk.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little indulgent for what I'm here on this earth supposed to do. But I do know the value of that time. And the more people I talk to, I would say more people that I talk to need to try harder to take that introverted time, whether it's a pen to paper,
yes,
or a meditation, or a prayer, or a walk alone, a reservation for dinner.
Yeah.
Take that time. More people I talk to are scared of being alone than I thought there would be.
Yeah. Well, I really tried to stake out this middle way, and you can make an analogy to centrism in politics, but it's also a very spiritual life choice. And this was initially promulgated by the Buddha as kind of a middle path between asceticism or monasticism and engaging in hedonism or pleasures of the flesh. And he found that the road to enlightenment is down the middle path, and one that you need to bushwhack yourself.
Right.
It's still it's still a walkway of discernment and intention and right work and right action and right speech and right livelihood, and then a good amount of introspection along the way. And I know that there's been some significant inflection points in your life. You were in a moment where you were killing it at the box office with rom-coms, and you were getting paid and seemingly having a hell of a lot of fun. But and you write about this, that there was a disconnect between your private life, which was extremely edgy and daring and courageous and occasionally audacious, and your career, which you describe as kind of shirtless on the beach,
Yep.
and that created an internal tension for you, and eventually you decided, I need, maybe it was a self-imposed red light.
Yeah.
But can you
Yeah.
maybe just unpack that period in your life,
Yeah.
because I think it can be really instructive for others.
So I'm rolling in rom-coms. I've made 4 in a row. They've all been hits. I'm the go-to rom-com guy. Took the baton from Hugh Grant. The rom-coms are the money I make on those are paying for the rentals of the houses I've got on the beaches that I'm running shirtless on, that paparazzi are documenting me on. So I'm living this life where you're seeing me in rom-coms, which are lightweight and they bounce along. And we all know the story. Guy meets girl, they break up. Guy chases girl at the end, gets her. Credits roll. We know what's going to happen. We just love to see it. They're built to be lightweight. You're not supposed to love so hard or get so mad, because if you stretch the bandwidth, the threshold of emotions, those you sink their ship. And I'm on the beach. So you're seeing me in rom-coms. You're seeing me on the beach in the magazines every week. You're like, he's living a rom-com. He's shirtless on the beach. McConaughey, he's shirtless in the rom-coms too. Geez, the guy just wakes up in the morning. They just must press record. Well, that aside, the success of those disallowed me from being able to do dramatic roles I wanted to do. And certain dramatic roles would come along, and I'd say, look, I know my rate. I'll take half that rate. I'll take a tenth of that rate. And still studios would go, no, 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 no. You parlay that with the fact that I've met Camilla. We have our first child, Levi.
Yeah.
Boom. You have a first child, man's never more masculine and clear and courageous in head, heart, and body and spirit. And my life was vital, edgy. I loved harder. I got angry harder. I laughed louder. I cried harder. Everything. I felt alive. Then every day I woke up scared but excited. My work, I was like, I could read that script and I could do that part in the morning. And I was like, I remember looking in the mirror going, well, before we make a choice here, Matthew, let's be thankful that that's the case. That you're not saying, my life's boring, but my work's great. At least if it had to be one way or the other, be glad your life feels more vital than your work. But what if your work challenged the vitality of your life? And I said, I don't think I'm going to get that from any rom-com. So I said, okay. I want to do these dramas. Dramas are more like real life. They have all those things that real life has. And the ceiling of emotion and the basement of emotion can go as high or low as you, the individual, wants to play it as the actor. So those dramas I wanted to do were not coming my way. Studios were saying no. So I said, well, if I can't do what I want to do, I'm going to stop doing what I've been doing. I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to impose a red light on myself because I believe there'll be a green light. If I could make this sacrifice. My hunch was, I didn't know, man. I mean, it was like, that was all I could do. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So I said, if I stop doing what I've been doing, maybe I'll press reset in a way. Now, what happened was just that. 20 months go by. I got no jobs, nothing but rom-com offers, no dramas. I'm now at the point where I'm thinking, I wrote my ticket out of Hollywood. I'm not going back to work at all. But mind you, I was very clear I was not going to go back and do a rom-com. I never wavered on that. I tell that story in the book about them. They raised it to a $14.5 million offer, an opening $8 million offer. And I said no. They raised it up to 14.5 after going to 10 to 12. And when it got to 14.5, as puritanical as I'm sounding right now, you know what I did when it got to 14.5? I said, let me read that son of a bitch again. And I read it again. And it was the same words as the $8 million offer, but it was a better script, Jeff. It was funnier. I saw more angles. I could make this work. So I'm not so pure, but I read it and I passed. Now, I believe that passing on that $14.5 million offer sent an invisible sort of lightning bolt across Hollywood. And they went, oh, like I was talking about with my dad earlier, he's not bluffing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not kidding. He's really not doing them. So then nothing came in. Hollywood, I called my agent every week for a year. And every week he goes, buddy, I haven't even heard your name. So I'm like, shit, I'm out. Well, what happened as soon as I shook hands with being out and thought I could maybe go be a fourth grade teacher or a high school football coach or an orchestral conductor? 20 months later, bring. Guess who's a novel, good idea for Lincoln Lawyer, for Killer Joe, for Paperboy, for Magic Mike, for Mud, for True Detective, for Dallas? You, Matthew. And I said, yes. So I unbranded to rebrand. Now, I had no guarantee, but I just bet on it. And I said, if my work can't challenge me and scare me the way my life is in the great way that it scared me, then I don't want to do it. So I rolled the dice, and they came back around, and sevens came up 20 months later.
The target attracted the arrow, as you say.
Yes, sir. It sure did.
Yeah.
That, and you know this, being practicing Buddhism. Again, that art of life. We're talking about that balance of extroversion and introversion. We're talking about that balance in the middle. That I thought when I went to write this book that 90% of my successes were going to be things that I saw where I wanted to go, put the goal line up there, and engineered my way to succeeding. What I found out in the book is at least 50-50, 50% were ones where the target drew the arrow. My spiritual growth has all come from target drawing the arrow, meaning I didn't know what I was going to find in Africa. I just put on my damn shoes and put on the backpack and got a one-way ticket and said, I don't know. I'm just going to go put myself in a place to be able to receive, hopefully. The Peruvian trip, the Australian trip. Those spiritual ones are when I did not have the goal set.
Yeah, right. But it's hard because the conceptual mind gravitates towards certainty all the time.
Yeah.
And so there is a process of surrender into uncertainty.
Yes.
But this is where much of the great growth then springs from. Well, obviously the role of Ron Woodruff came along, and it was just utterly spectacular, and obviously seemed to be a major inflection point in your career. And then, and you described this in the book, but right on the back of Buyers Club, True Detective was released, and you played this role of Russ Cole, I think, and man, that first season with you and Woody was, in my opinion, perhaps the best television ever made. I mean,
I still miss it, Jeff. I still miss it. I miss watching it on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, someday I'll get the story why there wasn't a season 2, but and there was a bit of a perfect storm, because after Dallas Buyers Club came out, then I believe True Detective was getting released every Sunday.
Yeah.
Through the award season as sort of a campaign almost.
It was a great campaigner for me. So Sunday night, I'm on the campaign for Dallas Buyers Club for performance as Ron Woodruff. Every Sunday night, you're seeing me as Russ Cole. And so you're going, whoa, look at the dynamic here. It was a great campaigner for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was all Greenlights. I mean, I remember I used to go to jazz club on the Upper West Side. I lived in Brooklyn, lived in Manhattan or New York area forever. And at the end of the night, I would get on 10th Avenue. And 10th Avenue was the only avenue in New York City where, once you passed Lincoln Center, every single light turned green as far as you could possibly see. And your cab driver would just gun it. And you put the window down, and it was all flow and momentum.
Yes.
And you just, cruising home with a little buzz at 2 a.m. So I'm sure that's what it could have felt. But you really, you flipped the script. And, the paradox was that at one point in your life, as we were talking about, your roles, your life was more daring than the roles we're playing. And now your roles were perhaps more edgy than your life as you became a dad to 3. So be careful what you wish for. But I think this is really, it kind of is this beautiful summation in some ways of this first, half of your life, I guess, of really getting to that place where you're living your values. And, I guess as you kind of ramp into the next season, of your life and you assess, um, where you might be the most useful.
Yep.
I'm curious, and I'm certainly I'm not going to ask you if you're going to run against Greg Abbott
Right.
for the governor of governorship of Texas. I know that that's something that a lot of people have conjecture about, and I also noticed that every bullet on your 10 goals in life have come true. But I noticed also that governor of Texas was not on that list. But as you kind of survey your life now,
Yeah.
and you assess where your own utility,
Yeah.
do you think you're that someone that can help? I don't know, unite America, or we've kind of been in this imposed monasticism of COVID for 18 months. I think people are really tired of the binary opposition all the time, and kind of where are you in that process of assessing where you can be most useful?
I hear you. Well said and well asked. I think we're tired of it too. And it's just, it's not a long, I don't think it's a long road. I don't think it's a policy that changes this. I think, I truly believe in the capacity that each one of us individually have to be more responsible for ourselves. I understand why we don't sometimes. I understand why I don't sometimes. Sacrifices that can take. Oh, I got to go without. But damn it, I've seen it, and not just with me. That bigger, shinier, proverbial pot of gold that you get with some understanding of delayed gratification for ourselves, selfishly, and for others at the same time. There's so much more that unites us. And again, I don't mean uniformity, but there's certain. I love all the colors. I think what I love about sports. It's the most healthy form of tribalism. We're gonna have tribes, man. Tribes are great. Raise your flag, yell at me. Let's go at it. And then afterwards, let's walk across the tarmac, the plank, the field, and shake hands and go, I'll get you next time. Good job.
That's right.
And then that's life. We need some more courage to, I think, self-employ ourselves into that. It's too easy. The world lets us, including me, allows us to be cowards with ourselves, with each other. We have, I think I would say, trust meter, as we've reached upon a few times in this conversation already, is at an all-time low in America. We don't trust each other. What happens is you don't trust ourselves. We become so individualistic. We bastardize the idea of American individualism because it still is the United States of America. When we talk about the United States, hey, land of the free and opportunity, I think that right now is a hyperbolic sort of one-liner. What we need to be asking ourselves right now is, hey, before we talk about the dessert, let's talk about the meal. Do we really want to be the United States of America? Let's ask ourselves that question. You don't have to say yes real quick. I know your first reaction is to say yes because you're damn right I'm American. No, think about it, because we are not acting like it. So let's just think about it. Let's break that down and deconstruct that. If we can come maybe together and go, I agree on that. Well, United States. Everyone's been in a family. There's rules in the family. There's things we got to follow in the family. Can you just go rogue in your own family? No. You got different chores you got to do. You got different things you got to do. You got to listen to mom and dad. You got to take care of brothers. You don't have to get along all the time. But we all got responsibilities within this family. If we could realize that, but right now our proverbial boundaries of our own household, as far as we can see, we have trouble seeing outside of our immediate demography and geography. And we go like, man, everyone else piss off. I'm just going to take care of mine at the exclusion of you. You can still take care of yourself and not exclude people. And is it about our attitudes? Is it about how we carry ourselves? Is it about our values? I do believe it is. And I think that's why I say, I don't think it's a policy. If there's a way to, and if there's a word for spiritually that people can get a little more, understand the scientific metric of that, Because if you say, oh, we need to spiritually come together, I lose half the people in this conversation. Half the people go, geez, you're going to go there because you can't measure it. All right. But is everybody spiritual? I believe everyone's religious. Even if they don't believe in God. Religion is a morality. It is a seeking to be a little better, to enjoy life more. You're making contracts with yourself and others, and that inherently is religious in many ways.
Absolutely.
And whatever name you want to call it, I say prayers, but I've done it with atheists, agnostics, and all kinds of different people. We just hey, let's say our thank yous. We can all sit there and say something that we're looking forward to. And we got to have hope. If we're going to say hope is faith, and then that starts getting, well, you're talking about religion. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It is all religion. We got to have hope. If I'm going to ask you and you're going to ask me to be more responsible for the capacity I have and my own potential to call myself out and start my own switch on who I'm going to be and how I'm going to be a better person, I got to have hope. I got to have something little to look forward to. Now, if we can pave that out, again, scientifically, this is what you got to look forward to. Understand the value of delayed gratification. Put in this little sacrifice. You're going to get more of what you want tomorrow if you make a little sacrifice today.
That's right. Yeah. I think it's, girding ourselves to those values. I mean, I think, again, as I've been, meditating a little bit about, all men are created equal, endowed with certain inalienable rights, among those life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has become sort of equated with individualism, with consumption, with accretion to one's own personal account. And we're in a place of dysbiosis where the equality piece, the collective piece, we're not giving that enough energy. We're giving all of our energy over here to the individual piece. And, like we've said, I think, a lot of times these things are one and the same. I mean, if my neighbor's daughter can't read, then what good is it if my daughter can read, and if our, liberation is truly bound. So, yeah, I think it's a kind of a reunification, or a recollection. I think I heard you actually break down the etymology of religion, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But
legare from the Latin root re and legare. Legare means to bind together. Re means again.
Communion.
You want to say you're spiritual? I'd say that's everyone I've talked to spiritual. That's what they're talking about. Yeah. Uniting again. Now, have we bastardized religion along the way over hundreds and thousands? Yes. Let's not blame religion for that. Let's blame ourselves for that. And redefinition. Do we need a new Webster's dictionary of cause and effect, of supply and demand, for what we say? Oh, that's the measure. That has more value. And how do we do that? How do we get rewarded? Right now, we're in a life where I'm not following it unless you're talking about monetary reward, bud. You know what I mean? So, okay, maybe we can use that tool.
Yeah. And I think, you utilize language in such a way that, words become, vessels for stories become vessels for values, and values become vessels for this communion or reunification. And I know that you know Roy Spence, who is also a good friend of mine, and we had a little shop in Austin together for a while. And I don't know if you know this particular story, but since you are a maven of bumper stickers, I think you'll like it. And in respect of your time, I'll just give it to you quickly. So we're the same age, more or less, and you're old enough to remember that era where we'd go to Burger King or McDonald's or Wendy's, and this was going down in Texas, where people would go to their fast food and they'd drive down the highway and they'd eat their Big Mac, and then they roll down their window and just throw the garbage right out on the side of the road. And this became an epidemic, specifically in Texas. And you drive down the highways and people come from out of town, and it was an embarrassment because the sides of the highways were these heaps of garbage.
Yeah.
And the state of Texas it's like, oh, we just can't, can't have this. This is an embarrassment. There's environmental implications here, and they tried every single campaign they could to try to get people to not litter.
Yep.
And I'm sure you also remember that campaign with the Native American with the
Yep.
tear coming
Tear.
down.
Yep.
That didn't work.
Uh-uh.
So they went to Roy
Yep.
and they said, Roy, help us with this problem. And we need a message here that that really resonates with people. That'll get them to stop. Just throwing their garbage out on the highway. So Roy went into his woodshed, and he's a marketeer extraordinaire. And he came back out. I don't know how much longer later, maybe a month later. And he's like, "I got it." And they're like, "All right, what is it?" And he said, "Don't mess with Texas."
Yep.
And that was it. That bumper sticker, which is now on every T-shirt and every hat, that was originally an environmental campaign, but it spoke to
Yep.
people's pride,
Yep.
of like, don't mess with our land. This is sacred. And I think that you just have that turn of phrase and that presentation that can cut through to people's values, a la "don't mess with Texas."
Right.
And I think that's why so many people are probably urging you
Right.
to get involved in politics. So
Yeah, I hear you. And
I don't. Yeah.
what that did, what that campaign did too, was the Indian crying. It was sentimental. The "Don't mess with Texas" was a challenge to you. Hey, remember Robert Conrad with the Duracell on his shoulder? Knock it off! I dare you. It was a challenge,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it was a state pride of like. And I remember to this day, you walking down the street around here, someone drops a cigarette butt. I'm not the only one that's going to go up and tap and go, "Hey, bud, we don't do that."
Yeah.
And it's like understood. Anybody challenged the people's pride. And look, man, humans tap into the 11% sometime. It means we got 89% to go. We have so much more capacity than we give ourselves credit for. And that's why I'm with you. I think there's definitely a place to challenge people on a personal level. They have to know that I'm in on the challenge with them, because I'm challenging myself too. I'm not speaking from up high like, "Hey, I got this. This is what you should do." Challenging me, we need to challenge ourselves. I think, I'm working on this title of Minister of Culture around Austin with UT and with Austin City. What do I mean? That we should all be ministers of our own culture. Take the baton, take ownership of yourself. It takes some responsibility, and that give us the freedoms. But we got to pay a tithe. We got to pay a tithe, not a tax, a tithe. Pay the duty. There's a bit of duty. It calls us. It gives us self-agency. You see it with kids all the time. In our foundation, we have this 2-hour after-school foundation twice a week. And they get on exercise goals, nutritional goals, everything. Then we implemented community service, where the kids have to go give community service. I was like, I don't know if that's going to fly. Did it fly? 100%. Up at 4:30 a.m. to go pack up stuff for the troops or go clean a beach in Venice. And I was like, what? Yeah, because it gave them agency. They didn't want the free. They were like, no, give it to me. Now I own this. Now I'm reciprocating. Now I'm giving back. I've got identity now.
Green light.
Green.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, Matthew, I mean, to be continued. I so enjoy your message and your work that you're doing right now. I find it to be courageous because it's a lonely terrain to stake out, some of that middle path that I think that you're carving up. And I've got great admiration and respect and share that path with you. So,
well, thank you, Jeff.
Good on you, man.
Hey, I mean, you were asking earlier, what's the next chapter for me? I'm trying to call on myself to go live out your values, be an emanation of your values, Matthew, do you want to go do it on a screen that is captured and put on a screen in a theater or a living room? Yeah, that's fine. But what about the big show? The one where the hands of time are recording 24/7. It's live. It ain't no, it's live. They're rolling right now, man. What's going on? Let's see it. Let's see it, emanate it, be it. And I don't know. I think I don't think that's just a personal calling of mine. I think it's something that everyone can understand if we look at and call ourselves to that, to say, hey, yeah, people always say, what do you do when the lights are off? It's a good question. Who are you when the lights are off? It's a who are you when no one's looking? And if
dark soul of the night,
and if we understand that, and also that's where I'm open for giving retribution, or that's where I'm open for rehabilitation. If we're gonna screw up, we're not going to live up to it. But that's okay. The point is, are we trying? And if someone goes, I bogeyed, I did not meet the standard, but damn it, I'm upset about that, but I'm gonna keep trying. Well, come on then. I'm not putting you in cuffs yet. Come on, let's get back in the game. Let's stay in the game. But if I screw up and don't live up to it and go, I don't care, it's on y'all. Well, forget me. I'm a tyrant. I'm not useful.
That's right. Yeah. And together we need to call people forward and not call people out. My friend Justin Michael Williams, says that, where it's like, people that are out there taking a chance, they're going to step in it from time to time. But, having these conversations is the only thing that stands between us and the world our hearts know is possible. And if we get too hesitant or reticent to have these conversations, then the best ideas can't cream to the top. So we need to be brave and courageous in the conversations, but also people need to know that there are going to be mistakes along the way, and that we've got to call people forward and not call people out. Being accountable, that's a good thing, but shaming people, canceling people, we're not going to get to the best ideas that way.
No. I'm with you. Amen on that. I hear you. Hey, we're in the. It's not going to get boring.
No, it's not. And I think as we open up post COVID, I think it's going to be interesting to see: are we just going to resort back to the old normal?
Yeah. Or
did we reprioritize along the way inside of this imposed monasticism?
Yeah.
Where people had to do more with less. Did we reprioritize? Was there a new frequency that can emerge from this, or are we just going to kind of sprint back, to the old normal, which seemed to be, I don't know, maybe careening off the cliff. So this is why I think it's important. I mean, in my mind's eye, I mentioned this earlier, but I was talking to my wife. I was like, I wonder if McConaughey would ever go out and do a couple town halls, once the world opens back up in real life, and get people up there across the spectrum to tell their stories. Try to get people to take one step onto the bridge.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a part of that. So
shoot, man, we've been talking about this. Has been a great talk, and I could talk hours about it. And what more interesting and invigorating and awesome thing to be talking about than how can we evolve and become better and more true people, states, countries, species, all of it. I mean, we have if we accept that as a personal task, not just you and me, but everyone looks in that mirror and looks in their own mirror and accepts that as a task. We have job security for the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? And redefining ROI, return on investment, and it's okay to say investment for people that go, wait, my investment's me. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You damn right. That's what we're saying. You are your investment. Now, let's maybe redefine the title of what account are we filling up? What account are we richest in? And see where we get paid back and how we get paid back. And the more we can do that and keep chomping the bit there and trying, I don't think we're going to solve it. But the more we can say, I accept the challenge and I'm going to have the courage to at least try that. Then I think we are doing what your friend said. We're calling ourselves forward, not out.
Mm. Aspiration. That's it. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely enjoyed that, Jeff.
Yeah, me too.
I'm Jeff Krasno, and welcome to Commune, where every week we explore the ideas, values, and practices that bring us together and help us live healthy and purpose-filled lives. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you'll join us.